Crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I'm here with a card using Newton's Nook Designs stamps, and it will be up over on their blog as well, and I'll share a link so you can check that out. But I'm using the Falling into Autumn stamp set, and it includes a lot of different solid leaves and some great sentiments, and I'll be using the Hero Arts Ombre Inks. I thought that these would look really excellent on fall leaves because of the natural variation that you see in leaves in the fall, and so I could get that effect pretty effortlessly just by using the ombre inks. With this stamp set, there are a lot of different options in leaves, some larger and smaller leaves, and so I'll be using 2 leaves per color. I am also working on the Ken Oliver craft sheet or craft mat today. Typically I work on the Ranger craft sheet, but I wanted to try out this new craft mat as I've heard a lot of good things about it, and during the video I'll talk a little bit about what I discovered working on this craft mat. So to get started, I have the stitched rectangle panel cut out from some white cardstock, and for now I'm going to be stamping on top of a foam pad instead of directly on the craft mat. That's because with these Hero Arts Ombre inks, the ink pad is made up of 3 smaller felt pads, and so they're not perfectly even, and I don't get quite the same clean image that I do when I use the just plain Hero Arts shadow inks, and I think that's just because of those 3 pads coming together. One way to help with that too, though, is to make sure that when you are placing your stamp on the pad, to make sure you move it back and forth a little bit so that those colors blend in together and there's no harsh line from where one particular ink pad ends and the next begins. For the ink pads today, I'm using chocolate to brown, dark to light peach, and butter to orange. I thought that of the colors in the collection, these 3 most suited the fall leaf colors. And like I said before, I'm using 2 leaves in each color, so I want to make sure that I spread them out and that I don't have too many brown leaves next to each other. And so you'll see that I kind of am moving from color to color and only stamping maybe 2 of the same color at a time because I want to be really conscious of the pattern that I'm creating here. Generally, when you're trying to make a pattern, or basically your own pattern paper as I'm doing here, you're going to want to make sure that you spread the colors out, that you have a good combination of smaller and larger elements, that they are mixed well so that, for instance, that leaf with the flourishes, you wouldn't want that to only appear in the bottom half of your pattern paper. You'd want it to appear pretty regularly. So keeping all of those things in mind as you stamp your own pattern paper. Also be sure that some of the elements are stamped off the paper, and so that it looks like you just kind of chose this chunk out of a larger piece of paper, and it will look more like a natural pattern paper. It's a little bit tricky to tell here on camera, but I do have a little bit of a smudge on this background paper, and I will be just covering that up later creatively by layering the sentiment over that area. So if you do mess up a little bit, it doesn't mean that you need to start all over again. One of my favorite things about this particular stamp set is the wide variety of leaves that are offered. There are 1 or 2 really large ones, about 3 or 4 medium, and then 2 or 3 really small ones. And so it allows you to work on a pattern like this pretty easily, because if you have any little gaps left as you are almost filling up the space, you can go in with those small leaves pretty easily, and it creates this sort of background with a little bit more ease there. So in terms of the Ken Oliver craft mat, I'm sorry to mention that a little bit. It is a non-skid surface, and that means that if you put down an object that would typically roll around, like little beads or even some, the markers would typically roll around, because it is a non-skid surface, those things are more likely to stay in place, which a lot of people consider to be quite the advantage. But for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of that, because I felt like I want things to be able to be move around easily, and you're going to see that here in a second. As I'm trying to move this paper around, as I ink the edges of it, it's sticking to the craft mat and not sliding as easily as it would on my Tim Holtz sheet. So I'm inking the edges with the Hero Arts Ombre ink because I find it to be an easy way to create a coordinating mat. But as I was inking, the pads fell right off of that black plastic backing. And I wasn't quite sure what to do, but I did contact Hero Arts the very next day, and they immediately got back to me and said that they would send me a new one at no charge. They just asked me for my address and sent it out. It arrived a few days later with a little bonus package of gems from Hero Arts, and so it shows you they really stand behind their products. However, you can glue those felt pads back onto the black plastic backer, and so far it seems to be sticking, but I was really happy that they just were willing to completely replace their products and stand behind it in that way. So if you ever have any trouble with your Hero Arts inks, be sure to just reach out to their customer service because they really want to help you out and stand behind their products. I did the same thing with the peach to create a sentiment strip that would be the same color. I love to use my inks in this way. I don't want to have to go through my solid colored cardstock or pattern paper and dig through and try to find something that's an exact match. If I'm using ink to create a background, I may as well use the ink to create the little pieces of cardstock that I need. It just makes everything simpler. And this sentiment is also from the same stamp set and has that solid it's a solid stamp, so I decided to again use that foam. Now I wanted something a little bit more. I felt like this card was looking a little bit plain even though I liked that background, and basically I wanted some sparkle. So I have this Tattered Angel Glimmer Mist in the craft color, and I didn't want it to be too dark, so I added a little extra water to it so it wouldn't be as opaque. And you see there I'm testing it on one of my sheets that my stamping didn't turn out perfect, so I paused and I switched over. And so now I'm going to apply that with a paintbrush. This is just plain cardstock, so it can't take a lot of water, and also I don't want this mist to be on top of the sentiment, and so that's why I'm applying it with a paintbrush instead of with a sprayer. And also again because I want it to be a little bit more watered down. So you see that Ken Oliver mat will allow you to work with wet mediums very similar to the Ranger mat. Now, even though I just applied water, I don't want you to think that Hero Arts inks are completely waterproof. If you spray a lot of water, they're going to bleed, but I wasn't using too much moisture and I was using a very thin layer, and so they are water resistant but not waterproof. And I think that's pretty key. So you can't stamp in the Hero Arts shadow inks and then do a whole bunch of watercolor, but a little bit of mist isn't going to ruin them. And so that is it for my card today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafty videos, you can subscribe to my channel. I will leave you links to the Newton's Nook blog so you can check out these products, and also to Tupelo Designs, who sells these stamps as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.